Once upon a time, in a small town, there was a man named Kazem who had an unusual love for coffee. Kazem owned a small cafe, and the aroma of his freshly brewed coffee always filled the streets and attracted everyone. But Kazem had a very strange secret: whenever he made coffee himself, it turned magical. One day, an unsuspecting customer came into the cafe and ordered a cup of coffee. Kazem, with his warm smile, made a cup of coffee and placed it on the table. The customer drank the coffee, and suddenly, in the blink of an eye, he turned into a cat. People in the cafe screamed and stared at each other, but the customer, now a cat, was completely calm, looking around like he was enjoying his new form. He elegantly twirled around, then jumped out the window and disappeared. Kazem, who was just as shocked, scratched his head and said, "Well, just another ordinary day at the cafe." The next day, word spread through the town that Kazem's cafe served magical coffee, and whoever drank it might turn into something unexpected. Some people turned into chickens, some into dogs, and some even into bouquets of roses. One time, a big merchant from another town heard about the magical cafe. He confidently walked in and said, "I want a magic coffee that will make me the strongest man in the world." Kazem smiled slyly and made him a cup of coffee. The merchant drank the coffee with pride. Suddenly, the merchant turned into a balloon and started floating into the air. People who saw all this couldn't stop laughing, and they eagerly waited to see what the next person would transform into. The whole town came to the cafe to try the magical coffee, but no one could predict what would happen next. One day, Kazem thought to himself, "Good thing I never drank any of this magical coffee. Who knows what I'd turn into?" But at that moment, by accident, he drank a cup of his own magical coffee. A few seconds passed, and Kazem looked at himself. Nothing happened. He breathed a sigh of relief, but when he looked in the mirror, suddenly, a brown tail appeared behind him. Kazem shouted, "Oh no, I've turned into a squirrel." And in a flash, he jumped out the window and ran off to gather his nuts. And that's how Kazem's magical cafe became the most famous place in town, where anyone who entered had to be ready for an unpredictable adventure.